specifically millimeter wave can help things in India, and I think Rahul touched on it, so I'll build on that a little bit. So let's get started. So this is a chart. I think it's self-explanatory. A lot of speakers have touched on this, but basically close to 3 billion people around the world are still offline, right? So that's one data point. I think it's been talked about enough. But the second thing is, if you look at the access speeds that the connected population is exposed to, more than 40% are getting 0 to 25 megabits per second. And if you dig deep into that, you'll see some of the DSL connectivity, which is the majority of that, is less than 10 megabits per second. So given the use cases that are evolving with work from home, education, digital education, and really getting access to all these digital apps and services around the world, these are not enough from a speed perspective. Now, building on this, if you go to take a worldwide picture, there are 3 main access technologies. There's DSL, cable-based, there's fiber, and there's fixed wireless access. Fixed wireless access is very, very new. Some of, at least with 5G, is very new. Now, if you take a look at the chart, there's some regions in the world, especially, let's say, China, very heavy fiber build-out. So if you own a home in China, you probably have access to 2 or 3 operators willing to sell you a fiber connection to your home. But in other parts of the world, including US, fiber penetration is not that much. So only about 70% of the population can get access to fiber. It's growing, it grows every year, and the technology is excellent. I mean, it gives you high speed, high capacity. But the problem is the speed of rollout and the cost to roll out the technology. And what the world is demanding right now is high-speed broadband now. And that's where fixed wireless access comes in. Now, VDSL cable, I'm not going to talk about it. I think Rahul touched on it. If you look at the evolution of what we need in the future, with the data demand growing with more than 30 gigabyte per user per month being consumed in India itself, these technologies are not going to be able to scale up, right? So, diving a little bit deeper into 5G fixed wireless access, and this really builds on what has happened in the last 3 years wherever 5G FWA has launched. So this is a customer satisfaction survey. This was done by highspeedinternet.com, and it essentially says that 95% of the people who are using 5G fixed wireless access are satisfied with it. And the metrics, if you compare, they're almost similar to fiber. Cable, DSL, and satellite is a very unique case, but cable DSLs do not match up. So it's really looking forward in the future. It's just 5G-based wireless fiber as well as the fiber rollout. One interesting point here that I'll touch on is the price satisfaction, right? What 5G enables, if you look at it in any country around the world, you might have one fiber operator, you might have 2 fiber operators, but you don't have a lot of choice. But you typically have 2, 3, 4, if not more, wireless operators. So what 5G enables is choice. So the wireless operators around the world are essentially using the network that they're deploying for mobility services and using that same network to offload, to provide a fixed broadband service to the consumers. So for them, it's a new business line, new area of business that they never were in because they did not have access to wired connectivity all around the world. So that's why this price competition leads to higher satisfaction from a customer standpoint. And this choice is really important. So why 5G? So this slide goes into that a little bit. Even in the 4G era, when we had tens of megabits per second data rate and about 20 megabits channels for 4G, we had fixed wireless access services. But it was relatively low speed. That is one point. The second is operators around the world, and we heard Mr. Sean talk about it. In the 4G era, they had access to anywhere from 60 to 140 megahertz of spectrum total. With 5G, suddenly they have access to hundreds of megahertz, so 100 to 200 megahertz in sub-6 gigahertz, 3.5 gigahertz bands, and up to 1000 megahertz or even higher in millimeter wave band. So this is massive amount of spectrum that just comes on board right for wireless fiber type of applications. So that's the spectrum angle, but then comes the technology piece. So 5G has been designed from the ground up to handle this load. So technologies like massive MIMO, beamforming, which basically allows you to use the same resource to send gigabit stream to two different users, ensure that once you start offering these type of services, you will be able to sustain them for the long period, even as the data needs grow. So overall, and the last point here on 5G is very robust ecosystem. So it's a 3GPP defined technology, multiple infrastructure vendors, multiple device vendors making devices for fixed wireless access and other types of devices. So there's a lot of choice in the industry, and that's why people are gravitating towards it and embracing it. So what's happening on 5G FWA, or basically wireless fiber around the world? In the last 3 years, we've seen tremendous growth. Any country that has launched 5G fixed wireless access services, or any operator, he's always had a successful business case to it, right? One data point is, if you look at the US market, I talked about 17% fiber penetration. Now all the top 3 operators in the US are doing 5G fixed wireless access. And last year, 85% plus of the net adds on broadband came from 5G, because it's so easy to roll out. It rides on their mobility network, very easy to roll out to customers, heavy competition in the market, so the prices are low, and customer satisfaction is through the roof. So worldwide, any country that has launched 5G at scale is doing fixed wireless access. 100 plus service providers today. By 2026, we expect 26% of the total global mobile traffic to be with FWA. So initial deployments here, sub-6, but there are operators and countries that are embracing millimeter wave. I think in India, we talked about the spectrum policy. I think a great step, because in addition to sub-6, this is operators here have access to 800 megahertz and 1000 megahertz of millimeter wave. So they already have that allocation to build a future-proof network. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I mentioned this in Qualcomm, we started working on 5G around 2017. And in 2018, 2019, we launched our first 5G platform, the Snapdragon X50 modem RF system. Since then, we have had a very dedicated focus on fixed wireless access. We think wireless fiber is one of the key use cases for 5G worldwide. So we have been building on that focus. And in 2019, we launched a second generation STX55 5G modem RF system. What's unique in this is, in addition to the sub-6 5G, we built an antenna module for millimeter wave, which is custom built for extended range millimeter wave. Using this platform, we demonstrated that we can provide a gigabit wireless fiber capability at up to 10 or 11 kilometers. So this was demonstrated in Australia, but it opens up a lot of possibilities. As India tries to connect rural villages or areas that are hard to serve with a landline fiber build out, or there's a time to market, we need to serve them now as the fiber builds out over time. I think this is an excellent technology to build on that. And it's available right now. Since then, we have evolved to Snapdragon X65 5G modem RF system, and our latest generation is the X75 5G modem RF system. And let's get into a little bit more details on that. So this is a Gen E wireless fiber or fixed wireless access platform. And at Qualcomm, what we are really trying to do is we are trying to bring the best of 5G release 17 and the best of Wi-Fi 7 into one optimized, fully integrated architecture, so that we can offer that complete end-to-end service and control the quality of experience as it's delivered in homes and enterprises. So this platform basically enables that, fully integrated with release 17 5G and Wi-Fi 7. In addition to that, full spectrum support for sub-6, so less than 6 gigahertz bands, and also our third generation or second generation extended range millimeter wave antenna module, QTM 567. So with this, we'll be able to go even beyond 10 kilometers. So, so this one is available right now, and besides the integration and trying to bring these technologies together, with wireless or wireless fiber, your resource is the spectrum. So what we are doing is, we want to make sure that we optimally use the spectrum, so focus on spectral efficiency so that the operators and service providers can support as many users as they can in the same amount of spectrum. So with that, we focus on technologies for sub-6 gigahertz, like 8 receive antennas, and 29 dBm. So these two technologies not only extend the range of the fixed wireless access device, so with one tower you can support more users, but it also improves the coverage and the capacity and the user experience. So 8 RS antenna, for example, from a coverage perspective, it will add 30% more coverage for the same cell site. Excellent for rural, suburban type of deployments. Otherwise, the cost of densification of the network is quite significant. So this is on the sub-6, this is available now, and the right technology set to be able to use. But the sub-6 spectrum, by definition, ends at 6 gigahertz, right? And most of it is allocated already. And that is prime spectrum that's also used by other devices, whether it's connected laptops, automobile, it's used by smartphones, which consume a lot of data. And the data usage in smartphone is only going up, it's not going down. So as Rahul mentioned earlier, at some point, sub-6 spectrum is going to start getting congested. It's great for now, and very easy to deploy. And that's where millimeter wave comes in. So in India, I think the operators already have the allocation. They're ready to go. Great work by the government there. And what we did is we looked at an India-specific millimeter wave deployment in 2 scenarios. So dense urban scenario and a low suburban scenario, just to see how millimeter wave can help here. This is not an artificial setup. This is actually actual sites in Indian cities that we were able to get the data from operators with, and we use those same site locations to be able to simulate this. So dense urban and low suburban areas, 2 clusters, 4 kilometers, 20 kilometers square, and about 30 CPEs per sector, right? And the KPI, the only KPI we're trying to measure is, I think it actually magically lines up with the government goals of 100 megabits per second as the minimum speed tier, right? So if you look at this thing, you can cover in a dense urban scenario 96% of the households in that area, 4 kilometers square, with millimeter wave. And this chart basically shows how many of those can get 100 megabits or 50 megabits. And this is a 400 megahertz millimeter wave CPE. So there is potential to have a higher bandwidth on the CPE side. And on the low suburban case, you can cover up to 84% of the houses with millimeter wave. So looking at it from a future-proof perspective, being able to keep up with the data growth as the consumption increases, we think millimeter wave is an absolute must-have in addition to sub-6 that will be launched. So overall, I think from Qualcomm perspective, our whole goal is to bring the best broadband technologies with 5G and Wi-Fi 7 in the Gen 3 platform, the latest. We have a really powerful solution to make sure that we can offer the best 5G or wireless fiber experience to all our customers.